It's Red Room Talk. Okay, so today we're going to talk about 2019 and what that represented to me and what I got from it, because I'm here to let you guys know that I am constantly putting myself into situations and scenarios and learning and experimenting, so therefore I can actually share my experiences to you. So 2019 was a crunch point for me. I had just moved out into a rental. I had lost everything in my life, almost. There are things that I still had, my children of course, but financially, emotionally, physically, mentally, I'd lost everything that I knew the world was. So no better time than to create a new world. And you know what? Maybe stop all the things in myself and the patterns in myself that had led me to where I'd got to. So 2019, I made a decision that every decision I made would lead me to peace, contentment, joy. Now, I can tell you by the end of 12 months that my life had gone from absolute chaos to contentment. And it was not an easy ride. One thing is for sure, when you start to change your frequencies, your patterns, and your vibrations, you're going to have a ripple effect that goes across everything. I'm probably going to be a bit of a gloomy person right now to say to you, I don't see anybody changing unless they're willing to look at every cell in their body and everything about themselves. Because there's no point pointing the finger anywhere else at anyone unless you're willing to point it back at you. But what I do want you to do is to be kind about it. There's no point hating yourself. There's no point going, oh, like I fucked up again. You know, I actually want you to go, okay, this is part of my pattern. These are the things I've been doing. How about I actually look at this from a strategizing space and change it a little bit, and we'll see where it goes. Now, I get to tell you where mine went. So to do this, you know, you're trying to get rid of maybe the chaos out of your life, maybe the bad relationships, maybe the bad health, maybe you just want to feel contentment. It's an absolutely amazing feeling, let me tell you, when you do get to that point. Now, let's just pretend or surmise or imagine that reality doesn't exist, that we are the co-creators of our life. So we need to, as the CEOs of our life, actually run the business properly. Doesn't mean we don't get to go and play golf on Sunday, right? It doesn't mean that you don't have your glass of wine at tea time, but you're running your business, and your business is you, and you want it to be doing really, really well. And there's sometimes, you know, it has lows and highs, and that's okay. That's life, you know, but be the CEO of your life, because you'll soon realize when you start to step back from a lot of things, realize that you haven't been the CEO of your life. So I'm going to talk to you today about the tree, an energy tree. I thought this would be the simplest way of explaining things to you. Now, I think energy is always in surplus. You know, like I think it's, if you believe it to be, therefore it will be. However, we potentially wake up, let's just say with 100% of energy in the morning. Good luck with that. But anyway, let's just pretend that that is the sum for this activity. Now, you're the tree. Now, you've got these branches that head off in all these different directions, which you've created since the day that you were born. Okay, so some limbs, you know, the reason I'm using trees is because if you look at trees' branches, they will tell you a story of the wind and the weather and the movement and the health. And the branch will tell you stories of the way that it inclines. So I think it's a really beautiful image that I use this one. So we are those branches, you know, we have these branches, you know, this year, 2019, you know, this is like, I've got a very, very strong branch in 2019. 2016, it's broken. But what I want you to know is that it's constantly changing, and you can focus your attentions on those branches, and you'll either feed the branch or you'll starve the branch. Now, be careful which one you're doing, and be really aware, because if you're not aware, then you can't change. And it's amazing that when you have some self-awareness, which you can receive through quietening your mind, stepping back from some processes, meditating, yoga, whatever's your jam, and then you can have a look at what you're doing. Because what I want I think what was absolutely essential for me was to stop blaming other people. You know what? I've had some shit times. I've had some really shit times, but I've had some brilliant times. And I know I've sat in front of, I've had hundreds and hundreds of readings now with clients, and I've seen people have the worst life. And they still get up and they're still standing and they're still moving forwards, and it's totally to do with their attitude. Then on the flip side, someone's had a shitty moment, one relationship that failed, and for the rest of their lives they're committed to thinking men are assholes, so therefore they're completely generating that energy frequency that all men are assholes. Now, I wouldn't want to go into a relationship with a man who thought all women were assholes. I'd quickly exit that environment, because I want someone who's open. Yeah, we've all hurt, but if we can get back onto the love space, then we get to move forwards. And you know what? There's no better revenge than moving forwards and finding happiness again and empowerment. And I happen to see everybody as empowered. I never see anyone not empowered. I think sometimes we get lost and we forget our empowerment, but I always see people as super empowered. So getting back to the tree branch, you've got so much energy to give to that tree that day. Now, of course, if you've got a family and a husband or a wife, a sick mum, there are priorities, and you're going to make that branch really, really strong. But if you've got a lot of, it just depends. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have a really shitty marriage. I always say to people, there's two ways. You've got one road that strengthens and one road that weakens every relationship that you have. And you need to be aware of that, and you need to have some forward thinking about that space so that you can own it. And therefore you can pull up, but it's extremely hard, as I know, that if one person is working very hard on the relationship and the other one isn't, it's just heartbreaking on so many levels. So getting back to the branch, the first thing I started to do was having a look at how much energy I was putting everywhere. Now, I had lost my finances, so although it was probably the best and most liberating moment of my life. I'd worked 2 jobs forever, and I had little children to raise, and all my savings, push. So I had to start again. So work needed to be a priority, which meant that if I was going to channel a lot of energy into my work, I needed to be really healthy for that. I needed to see a lot of clients, and I needed to love what I was doing, because the biggest mistake people do is they think money comes from working. No. Money comes from loving your job and the passion and thriving and moving towards that. And it's not even about the money, I couldn't give a shit. The money is the outcome of you loving your job and moving forwards. So, and then I started to look at friendships that were taking energy from me. And I've been a single girl for most of my life, and I enjoy being single. However, and so my friendship branches were extremely strong. I have many friends in many places, in many different spaces. However, what I was finding was I was too tired to be entertained anymore by certain dramas in people's lives. And I had to admit, I was a drama to people's lives, and I didn't want to be that anymore. I didn't want to be the person that was wearing other people down. So I had to step back from that. Now, as you do start to quieten your mind, here's an example. You've had a fight, say, with a parent, and ego comes into play and pride comes into play. Now, does that move me towards peace and contentment and joy if I continue to use ego and pride? No, it doesn't. So you have to decide what's the long game. You know what the long game is? Getting to a place where I'm, really excited to be around my family, and I have good conversations with my family. So some things you're going to have to change, which is behaviors. So you're going to have to go, right, well, but it's not about just forfeiting an argument or forfeiting your rights and values. It's not that. It's about looking at it and saying, well, actually, I'm going to change that. Now, here's an example, and I'm going to use, I was talking to a man who often makes me irate, right? Because he was, and this particular day, he was saying all women were a pack of assholes. And I was sitting there, I'm like, last time I looked, I'm a female. Like, this is really insulting. Why don't you understand why this is not insulting me, right? So I should stand up and stomp my feet and declare that this is rubbish, right? However, I stopped my behaviour, which would have been a Scorpio headbutt, because I am a Scorpio. And instead I just looked at this person and I said, what's wrong? And they looked at me and they softened, and he said to me, I'm really lonely. And I realised that he was manifesting hatred towards women because he didn't have a beautiful, intimate relationship in his life. So when we start to change our own behaviours, therefore we open up to potentials of other people's realities, and we change our own reality, and we change the reality in that space and time. So with saying that, it's all about moving forwards and moving out of that existing place in which we call our life, you know, and it doesn't mean you have to. You might have a really awesome life and you have no need to change anything because you're thinking it's flowing really well. But this is for people who are struggling to keep the contract that they would like to be happy and peaceful and joyful. So I'm just having a quick look here. So one other one too is there are some people in your life that you can't just move away from. Say children or very good long-term friends or family members or someone that you need to keep in your life, and you need to change that space. And one of those things that we realize is that we enable people, and enabling is almost like, say, guilt parenting, guilt friendship. We're allowing people to continue certain behaviours. Now, it's not our role to change other people's behaviours. That's the role of the person themselves. As a healer, I help people acknowledge their empowerment in a situation rather than go, oh, look at me, I healed you, which is ego and pride. Now, say with enabling, when you stop and you look and you go, right, how am I enabling this person? You're actually not helping those people by enabling them. And it's okay if people struggle. And this is one thing that we don't get taught. It's okay to let people struggle, because it's in the struggle that they learn. And they may fall and be there ready, but you are not going to take that opportunity away from that person to become what they're meant to be. And they're not going to be that if you keep enabling. So it's awful. It's the most horrible process, and I had to do it with people, and it was terrible, and it would make me cry. Like, I hated every moment of breaking that. And the question was, what is it in me that's making me do that? What guilt or behavior or laziness is in me that's letting me enable certain behaviors in other people? And then you have to watch them. There'll be tantrums. There'll be things going, because, you know, you've rippled through their energy and they don't like it because they were benefiting from you doing that in their life. So please stop enabling people. But, you know, it doesn't have to be a headbutt. You can just, and be open and honest with people when you're going through this transition. Say, well, I'm moving to a place of contentment and joy. I'm just going to see what it looks like if I make every decision. And you know what? Me working my ass off, or me feeding you when you're hiding in your bedroom, is actually taking my energy from my tree. And you know what? Getting back to the tree, let's talk about thought processes and memories. Now, if you look at a branch and the branch is a bad memory, bad childhood, and the branch is thick, right? Imagine how thick that is on your side. So you've got these like little shoots of things that are potentially amazing, and you're ignoring them and you're not seeing them because of this branch. Now, the thing is not to take away from the fact that you had a poor or bad childhood, or bad relationship, or you've got trauma, but the thing is to send love to the branch. And then what you want to do is spend less time on the branch. You want to shrink down the trauma responses of thought processes that go on. I'm not a great fan of regurgitation, but I am a great fan of dealing, acknowledging, and being aware of the situation, and then moving into a space where you can deal with that. So if you've got monkey brain, or, you know, record playing brain, and thought, and you're just creating this monster branch, the branch becomes everything and everything else becomes small. So just be aware of what monkey thoughts you're having and what you're putting your energy towards. The reason there are people who get through trauma is they're able to get that down. And I certainly did through my year of contentment, because going over the same mistake that I made over and over again was not bringing me to happiness or joy or contentment. So I had to move away from that space, but I had to also deal with it, which meant I had to be peaceful and kind and content within myself. So Also, I wanted to talk about riding the wave, because once it's not all hard slog, because once you start to get how this works, you know, you leave work, say, and just say you do have a mundane job and it's not a particularly gorgeous job and you just go there for the money and it's not, you know, it's whatever. You know, but it pays the money, it gets you to do the things that you did. I mean, I cleaned cars for about 4 years or something, and I had guns on me, like I was so fit. However, it was the most perfect job because it paid the bills, but it left my creative brain and I wrote my first book. So while I was cleaning cars, my creative mind was like, and then I wrote Sword. So, you know, sometimes, you know, some things work and you know where you're at. If you have to do this, if you want to do that. But you know what? If you want to start conquering some dreams, or, you know, you have to change everything about you. And you can't keep using everyone around you as the excuse. If you need to be fit because you want to go hiking, you got to get fit, and that means you've got to eat well and you've got to eat clean. And the thing is, most of us don't even know how unaware we are of most situations till we start to research it. I mean, I still am working on dietary stuff and my knowledge of that and my fitness and all the rest of it. And of course, you're allowed to have to back it up. Do you know, like some days we have bad days, we have good days. You know, it is what it is. Acknowledge it. It's a human attribute. You know, we're not always kings and queens. Sometimes we're peasants, you know. But getting back up and moving towards a life where you feel happy when you get up in the morning. And also just be aware, you will be surprised at the people who don't cope with this transition. And it will be probably the more enlightened people in your life. Ask questions such as, well, what did my messy life do for them? And then the flip side, maybe they're enabling you. And also maybe there's parts of themselves that need you to be a mess so that they feel wanted in their life. Now, you can send love to everybody. It once again doesn't need to be a hammer on the head. What you need to do is just say, look, I really love you and I really do love you, but right now I need to go and sit back in some spaces and I need to have a good look at my life, and I'm not sure where that's going to lead. But I certainly, you know, you don't need, any of this does not need to be in an abrasive manner. You need to just take your time processing all this stuff, because it's in the processing that the miracles happen. And I tell you what, like, the end of 2019 was incredible. It was an absolutely incredible, you know, it was scary. I made a decision to go road tripping. I sold all my stuff and all my belongings. There was some major big energy movements. And there were moments where I was sobbing my eyes out because I just had to sever, unfortunately, some relationship, because that person was just, you know, and they weren't going to be accepting of my changes. I was accepting of them and have acceptance of the space in which it was, but ultimately it was just going to be hard work. And every time they were in my life, I was crying because I couldn't reach the frequency in which they were at anymore. And you'll find that when you start, the more peace you have in your life, the less stress, the less you want. And you'll be, you know, you may start off with an intention here of, this is what I want my life to look like at the end of the process. And you'll find that actually at the end of the process, it's very different to what it was meant to be or what you want anymore, because suddenly, as your mind is quieter and your life is quieter and you're getting on with your business, because, you know, bills to pay, things to do, health to do, friends to love, like, you know, places to check out, you know, you're less likely to get involved in the drama of everything else, and you'll just move away from that. You know, in the middle of COVID, I just was turning things off, because, you know, if I looked outside my caravan, which I was living up, there was no war outside in the bush. There was nothing outside, but the war was in the TV, and the war was in, you know, it was this incredible space of drama and chaos. And, you know, of course, it's a pretty big deal. But my mindfulness was, turn it off, meditate, you're healthy. Focus point is be healthy. Focus point is be considerate. Do what they're saying. Stay indoors. You know, Of course, I had my ups and downs in those spaces, and raged in week 5. But just realizing what you can control and what you can't control is really key to stuff. Now, I'm just going to quickly look at my notes. I tried to keep this short, but of course, I think I'm going to hit 20 minutes. I'm so sorry about that. So just to reframe, you can, the relationships you can't get rid of or move around from or change, you can tweak them, but ultimately I want you to know that it's okay to leave those spaces. And as it's okay to rebirth, and it's okay not to, and it's okay to sit back and say, I don't want to go out, I'm okay here. But do expect an upheaval from other people, and expect certain things to come out of you too that you may not have expected, and because you're suddenly becoming very self-aware, you might go, actually, I'm really shit with money. Like, I'm actually really, and you know what, maybe I'm not a very good friend, or maybe I'm actually a shit wife. You suddenly go, I don't speak well to people. The language I use is not appropriate. Oh my God, all these thoughts that I think about are always going back to a core belief system that the world is shit. So when I start to teach you about manifesting intention and potentially spell making and stuff like that, you'll realize how important it is that everything you use, and it's just a process of changing the way that you think, and then you'll change your core belief systems. And then once you believe that, because you know what, I quite often say now that I'm probably one of the luckiest people I know, and I actually truly believe that. And that happened in 2019 when things flipped over for me. So I'm going to love you and leave you and put I had a phone call right in the middle of the videos. So I've got 2 videos to put together. Lots of love. How about you shoot me some questions that you might like me to speak about for next week's Red Hot Talks. And see how much I've blushed? Wow. That's actually because it's so hot here today. That's ridiculous. Okay, so I'm going to go and drink some cold water. Love you and leave you. Bye.